Hey everybody, welcome back. Sorry for last week. We had a miss last week because unfortunately I had
Medical issue.
a medical issue that unfortunately allowed me not to talk. For some, it was a really good thing. For others, like everybody who likes to watch the show, it's a bad thing. But we're back for another week of This Week's in Pro Wrestling. Hey, Jeffrey, introduce yourself.
Once again, it is me, the J to the E to the double F free. You can all relax because Jeffrey Harris is back. And Mike is back too. Mike Sandoval, how are you, man? How are you feeling right now? What has this whole ordeal been like for you?
It sucked because one, I lost 5 pounds, 6 pounds just from not eating.
Well, that's not so
3,
bad.
4 days. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna complain about that one. It's just that, so what happened, and I don't mind telling everybody, I had a broken tooth. They had to remove it. It got infected. It got into the jaw, so they had to put a bone graft in to rebuild the bone in my jaw. And that's the only thing, like, the worst pain wasn't even the surgery. The pain when the dentist tried to take out my wisdom tooth and it slipped and hit me on the roof of my mouth, and that hurt more at night than the actual surgery. But I'm okay now, as you could tell. I could talk better now. We could talk all about wrestling. So yeah. So how's everything with you?
I'm fine, and I'm happy to hear you're on the mend, and I hope everything's doing okay. I mean, the thing is about a tooth infection, it can be very dangerous and fatal if it's not treated properly. So I'm glad to hear you're okay, and I hope you get well soon with that. But
Yeah.
in the last 2 weeks, I mean, the whole industry. I mean, the sort of this whole upheaval of WWE this year and just all this crazy, the lunacy has not stopped.
Oh, I heard.
And how many times have I said it on this show? What's going on behind the scenes in WWE is more compelling to what than the on-air product at this point. You know, they're getting $1 billion for 5 years from NBC Universal on Peacock for the WWE network. They're getting, I think, $1 billion over several years from Fox for SmackDown, and then plus whatever they're getting for NXT and Raw on USA Network. But everything that's happening behind the scenes with WWE right now is, it's just nutty, man. I cannot even fathom this. This month alone, we've lost like half the NXT roster. We've lost Ric Flair, and at the very end of July, Bray Wyatt is gone.
Yep.
Bray Wyatt is gone. He is no longer a WWE superstar. Bray Wyatt is a former world champion, a former Universal champion. He's not even 35 years old yet.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago, unless there was some sort of egregious sort of behind the scenes event that would have caused this, I could have never imagined WWE letting a talent like Bray Wyatt go. This, to me, this is like WWE just unexpectedly firing someone like The Undertaker or Mankind or Mick Foley.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely
during the middle of during the height of their runs. I cannot even fathom this. Wyatt has, so let's start out with Bray Wyatt, because this was right after our last show, basically. So Bray Wyatt had been with WWE since 2009. And so let's see how old his real name, Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda. Of course, he's the son of Mike Rotunda, who you might know as IRS in WWF, you know, back in the 90s. So let's see, he's 34 years old. So he signed with WWE at like 22, 23 years old. Like, that's and he's been with the company for 12 years, and they just cut him. And they didn't just cut Bray Wyatt. They cut The Fiend.
Yeah.
And here's what else. So Bray Wyatt, over the course of his career, WWE champion, 2-time Universal champion, Raw Tag Team champion, SmackDown Tag Team champion, like a Grand Slam champion here. I mean, to me, this is unfathomable to cut a legit main eventer like this. The last time we saw Bray Wyatt, he lost to Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37, which we were all kind of pretty shocked by. Then he did a Firefly Funhouse segment the following night on Raw, and that was his last appearance. And since that time, Alexa Bliss has sort of taken over the Fiend gimmick. I guess after I don't even know what was going on there. I guess she stole the Fiend's powers, but unpack this, Mike. Bray Wyatt is fired, got released from WWE. Not even 35 years old.
To be honest, I feel bad for Bray because this is like the storylines. WWE screwed up that whole storyline, screwed up the whole Fiend, screwed up everything on that, and he's the one who has to pay the consequences, and that's what sucks. Because it's like it was the front office, it was the writers, it was everybody who was putting his career out there who screwed up Bray Wyatt. It wasn't Bray Wyatt screwing up Bray Wyatt. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Even Alexa Bliss was pissed off when she heard about that announcement that he got let go.
Okay, now according to Fightful, they said Bray Wyatt was healthy and able to compete. He was originally scheduled to return before they cut him. Let's see what else. He did post a tweet this month with like an image of the Fiend saying you can't kill it. Now, here's my view. Bray Wyatt, ever since Wyndham Rotunda, ever since he became like the Bray Wyatt character, like this guy was the golden goose. Like the Wyatt family, like the Wyatt family. What was that?
When we use Husky Harris?
Yeah. The Husky Harris thing, but he reinvented himself as Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. And then I felt as the Wyatt family, they were constantly misusing the Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt at every turn. I mean, look at Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, two very talented big men who they never used to their full potential.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how Braun Strowman got his start in the Wyatt family. So then they constantly misuse the Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt. Then he reinvents himself as Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt, and then the Fiend. And this is like this character. This is like one of the best original characters for the WWE since the Undertaker, Mankind, those type of pre-Attitude Era, like just iconic, indelible characters. And then they constantly misuse the Fiend too. Like this great, and you can't tell me the Fiend was over. You can't tell me he wasn't over. The Fiend was over. He was a moneymaker. They made so much merchandise for the Fiend. And you can't tell me the Fiend was not a draw and didn't make money. He was definitely a big moneymaker. All evidence points to the Fiend being a big moneymaker. And it just feels like the WWE creative team, Vince McMahon, are not doing their job here. And I don't understand why you would cut Bray Wyatt on any level, even if you're trying to save money right now and trying to offload some big contracts. It makes no sense to me.
And I agree with you on that one. It really does not make sense at all. Especially like get mid-card guys. I understand that, but he was not a mid-card guy.
He was a world champion. He was a world champion.
He was the future of this WWE moving forward, since the Undertaker was already pretty much retired. It's like he was it.
He was that guy.
And I don't know. And
he's not even 35. He's not even 35 years old.
Yeah.
WWE, they supposedly want younger, bigger guys. And he's still, I mean, guys these days are wrestling into their 40s and 50s, Mike. Look at Bobby Lashley. And Bray Wyatt's not even 35 yet. And he's already at have put over a decade into this business. It's insane. It's insanity.
I just don't. It goes back. It makes me question. And when we go into this next round, the next topic about releases, it makes me question: is it Nick Khan? At first, I thought it was John Laurinaitis and Bruce Pritchard. Now I'm thinking it's Nick Khan.
I don't think it is Nick Khan. I think it's like everybody. I think it's like everything.
Yeah, because I mean, does Nick Khan really know the business?
I don't know. I've heard
That's my
conflict.
thing.
I think the perception is from fans that Nick Khan, you have this new president in,
Mm-hmm.
and that he doesn't have a wrestling background and he's coming in and making sweeping changes. But
Yeah.
I've heard other things from like Meltzer Wrestling Observer that
Mm-hmm.
kind of conflicts with that, but we'll see. Okay, so then a few days later, this was a few days later, WWE announces we have come to terms on the release of Ric Flair on August 3rd, 2021. So now Ric Flair is out. Now here's the deal. WWE did not fire Ric Flair. Ric Flair wanted to quit and wanted to leave. So we have a statement for Ric Flair. So here's what he said. He requested his release. I want to make it really clear with everyone that I'm not upset with WWE at all. They solely are responsible for putting me in the position of life that I'm in right now, where I'm seen in the brightest light ever. We have a different vision for my future. I wish them nothing but continued success. Thank you for everything. Nothing but respect. According to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer, Flair had a very lucrative contract as just the WWE ambassador and I guess a limited time on air character with WWE. 72 years old. Like, why do you think Ric Flair would want out right now if he's got a sweet deal like that?
I don't know. I really don't know. And I think maybe I can't. You know what? There was a way I thought I was thinking, and I can't go that route because I really don't know why. I mean, unless he wants to enjoy, and this is a retirement, and he wants to enjoy it. Even though I doubt it, something tells me he'll show up at AEW. But I do think like, see, I mean, he's 72. He makes good money. He could literally just relax the rest of his life and have fun.
Do you think Flair is trying to get back in the ring at 72 years old?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Here, this is from the Observer newsletter. Flair reportedly had a tremendous ambassador contract prior to his release. It said he was earning more money than he made even as world heavyweight champion in WCW. He signed this is based on his latest contract he signed last year. Do you believe he could have been making that much money as just sort of a part-time on-air character and an ambassador?
I believe it. And if Bunda just made a comment saying Flair has a $500,000 deal, I believe. If that is the case, and if it was $500,000, I mean that's a lot for being an ambassador. But hey, you know what? It's Ric Flair.
Okay, I heard another rumor from Dave Meltzer on Observer Radio said Flair sent a text message to Vince McMahon complaining about the booking of his daughter, Charlotte Flair, aka Ashley, and her situation. Meltzer added that people close to the situation said that Flair's release was Vince's decision. Do you think Flair has a legitimate complaint about Charlotte's booking right now? Because I feel out of anyone in WWE who's being booked strong and protected, one of those people who defines that is Charlotte Flair.
Oh, I agree. I think she's getting booked best out of any of the women on Raw, definitely, for sure.
She's getting booked better than Nikki Ash, who's the champion, who beat Charlotte to win the title, you know?
Yep.
So why do you think Flair would be upset about her booking? If there's any truth to that.
To me, it's hard to believe that that's the problem and that was the issue. I think there's something else that isn't out yet.
That could have been, I mean, look, we don't know. Here's the thing about Dave Meltzer when we hear things like that. We don't know who he's talking to, and we don't know who's feeding him information. And my thought is, I don't know if this is true either. This is just me spitballing speculation. I think it's possible when we read some of these reports, it could be sources feeding guys like Meltzer, whoever in the media, fake news, or not fake news. I don't want to say that. Like false info or trumped up, exaggerated info to, to paint the story a certain way.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. Do you think Dark Side of the Ring could have anything to do with this?
No, I don't think so.
Because they're going to do an episode of Dark Side of the Ring about the plane ride from hell, and there are things about the plane ride from hell that do not paint Ric Flair in a very, shall we say, positive light.
Yeah. And for our viewers who may not know what the plane ride from hell is, explain to them a little bit about what the plane ride from hell.
So I guess in early 2000, in the first half of 2002, there was sort of this infamous event called the plane ride from hell. It's sort of this, when I talk about things being more interesting behind the scenes than what happens on screen, this is sort of like one of those the truth is stranger than fiction type of stories where there was all these events sort of coalesce and converged on this one plane ride where just all sorts of like one disaster happened on this plane ride, one after another. People were drunk, getting into fights. Supposedly Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, got into a fight with Brock Lesnar, and they almost set open the emergency door mid-flight. And Goldust, who was having problems at the time, was doing was causing problems with his ex-wife, Terry Runnels. And then Flair was supposedly walking around the plane naked and was exposing himself, like he had his robe on and nothing under his robe, and was like, it was sort of.
I can believe that. Okay. I can believe Flair doing that.
Okay, but this was a long time ago, 2002. It's sort of just one of this really infamous stories, and there were legal. Some people were fired over this flight, and there were legal actions taken. So, it's just one of these really weird, infamous stories in pro wrestling. It's sort of like, it's a lot like, do you remember the Arn Anderson Sid Vicious incident in WCW?
Yeah, I remember.
It's just kind of like one of those weird, bizarre, what the hell? Like, how did this escalate and get so crazy, dumpster fire kind of moments? But yeah. So I don't know how Dark Side of the Ring is going to present all these things, but and I haven't heard anything about Dark Side of the Ring related to this Ric Flair story, but we know that story is coming later this year on the docuseries. And there are parts about this story that do not paint Ric Flair in a good light. I'm just saying.
Well, there's a lot of things that have. There was I believe, who did this? Was it Judd? Mike Judd did something about Ric Flair, a cartoon like about what it was like. What he was like on the road. Was it? I believe I remember seeing a
Butthead Mike Judge or something else.
Yeah, Beavis and Butthead Mike.
Yeah, that's Mike Judge.
Yeah, that he did a thing about Ric Flair, and it was a story about tour buses, I believe, and talked about he was how it was traveling from town to town, and he was one of the. It was on Showtime, I believe.
Oh, I didn't even know about this cartoon.
Now, did you find it?
No. Are you sure it was Mike Judge? Could it have been
Tales from the Tour Bus? That's what it was called. Tales from the
Tour Bus.
Yes. And,
this is okay. I didn't even know. I had no idea this was a thing. Mike Judge presents Tales from the Tour Bus. So this is a few years ago. It was on Cinemax.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess there was an episode about Ric Flair.
I believe so. I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the, but there was something animated that I remember seeing.
I want to look for the
Ric.
Are you sure it was Ric Flair?
It could have been somebody. Well, I know there was something talking about the various women's and how he was going from town to town, flying, like really living the persona of Ric Flair. It could have been a different documentary, but I remember seeing the animation. It looked like Mike Judge animation. I think I may be wrong, but I remember them talking about how he used to live that persona to a T.
Oh, like, yeah.
You couldn't distinguish who was Ric Flair the man and Ric Flair the wrestler.
I can't find the animated short, but I can tell, or I guess not tell. I can understand Ric Flair wanting to, live the lifestyle of the Nature Boy and trying to live that character. And I can
Well,
also see that backfiring him in real life situations,
yeah.
by taking it too far.
Well, wouldn't anybody want to be the one who would want somebody to ride Space Mountain the way he did?
Well,
there were no fast passes back then.
I don't know how they're going to present it in this docu-series, but I guess we'll see. And I don't know that had anything to do with Ric Flair's exit, but it's still, but it's bizarre nonetheless. It is very bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what else we have here.
And some more releases.
More releases. We're not done here.
Nope.
So Flair was voluntary. Flair was not like he was fired. Flair quit, basically.
Right.
All the evidence says Flair quit, but now we have half the NXT roster got flushed. Bronson Reed, who held the North American. I mean, we saw Bronson Reed win the North American title. Former tag team champion of the Ascension, the Undisputed Era. Bobby Fish is gone. Leon Ruff, another former North American champion. Tyler Rust, who just debuted with the Diamond Mine, is gone. Jake Atlas, Mercedes Martinez, who just wrestled Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's title. Asher Hale, Giant Zangier, Zachariah Smith, Kona Reeves, Ari Sterling, and referee Steven Smith. So, wow. The big ones here to me are Bronson Reed, Bobby Fish, and Mercedes Martinez. I mean, Tyler Rust was actively on TV too, so I don't get some of these at all. But what do you think?
The ones I'm shocked with is one Bronson Reed. I was really shocked with.
Yeah,
because he was just the North American champion about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Well, 3 weeks ago. Was it like 3 weeks that he lost the belt?
Or it wasn't
long ago. And they were really pushing him. They were having him do dark matches at SmackDown and Raw.
It looked like he was about to move to the main roster.
Right. And I just don't.
See. So Bronson, he won the NXT title in May. He lost it in June to Isaiah Scott.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Bronson Reed. I mean, he's 32. He's not super young, but he's not like, an old man in the business yet.
Exactly.
And it looked like they were grooming him for the main roster and getting ready for a main roster debut for him. And here's why I don't think this is a money thing.
Okay.
Because there's no way Bronson Reed is even making close to the level of what Braun Strowman, Ric Flair, or Bray Wyatt were making. There's no way.
Yeah.
On an NXT contract. And the NXT guys are all most of the main roster guys are on 90-day non-compete clauses. The NXT guys who just got released are all on 30 days. So they don't even have, for them to work elsewhere, they don't even have to wait as long. So Bronson Reed is not making the type of money that some of these big money contracts that WWE was supposedly trying to cut off were making. And let's see what else. Okay, so this is again from Dave Meltzer from Wrestling Observer Radio. He says Nick Khan had nothing to do with these decisions on the NXT side. He said all of these were Vince McMahon. Meltzer said that while Nick Khan can make decisions on budget cuts, he's not making decisions on roster cuts. Meltzer also said Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis had input on these cuts as well. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, who are sort of the executives in charge of NXT, had nothing to do with the cuts. So it was all Vince, Laurinaitis, and Pritchard. That's information from Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, I'm bringing this comment in from Bunda. Let's call a spade a spade. NXT is just glorified indie show. The hardcore fans aren't enough to make that show any money.
What do you think, Mike?
In some ways, I agree and disagree. I agree with the fact that it's kind of like an indie show because they have that indie type of feel where it's in one location. They don't travel. The only time they do travel is like for big main, like the takeovers. and they
They
have
were
to take
they were doing live events before the pandemic.
Yeah,
They
but
were
not
doing
on
they were
television.
doing
Not on television.
they were
They
doing
weren't
house shows.
how many though? Because every time I saw it, they were always in
They
Orlando.
were no, they were spreading out more before the pandemic.
Yeah, but they're not in
NXT
the arena.
NXT has been
arena.
around. NXT has been around for a while. No, they were doing small shows, but
So they do like Riverside, and they did Ontario. Like they do like the smaller venue.
they were getting
venues
they got a TV renewal with NBC Universal, so they were getting TV money for NXT. So to me,
that's where, and on that side, that's where I agree with you. Money wise, they were making money.
So this is where Bunda is wrong. Maybe NXT was losing money before, but if they're getting money from NBC Universal for their TV product, they are making money on that product at this point.
Yeah. They're making good money on. That's where they made their money, was the television revenue, and television revenue was always going to get you the most money out of anything.
And here's my problem when people talk about NXT not creating stars. Look at the women.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair. Who just headlined WrestleMania this year? Night
Bianca
1.
Belair.
Bianca Belair. Where did Bianca Belair get her start?
NXT.
Is NXT, are we really going to say NXT is not creating top stars?
See, something tells me, and that's why I say, something tells me that, and especially keeping Triple H and Shawn Michaels out of this, I think Vince wants to bury NXT. I'll be surprised if NXT is going to be around in the next 2 years.
I don't even know. I think if you cut a show, I think you have to cut 205 Live now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because they don't have anyone left. Like a lot of these guys that just got cut were like, they were on, I think Ari Sterling, the same night he got, someone got cut the same night they were wrestling on 205 Live, basically.
Yeah.
Like, because these cuts got released during SmackDown last week.
Yeah. And that's why I say, like, the 205 Live guys are all the guys who they have during the main shows chasing over that stupid 24/7 championship.
I mean, Bunda, are you really going to tell me that Becky Lynch could not sell out an arena? Come on here.
What's this? We got a comment. Besides the Shield guys, when's the last big star that came out of there?
Becky Lynch. Come on.
Yeah.
The man, right? Are we really?
You could even say Charlotte Flair, because they all came out around the same time. They all came out at the same time.
Are we really in 2021 going to discount the accomplishments of the top women superstars? Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like what the hell?
Because more women have succeeded out of NXT than the men. Let's be honest.
Let's see who else. Asuka. Asuka came in through NXT first. So I mean, I feel like people aren't giving NXT its due, and they're ignoring the women. They're just when they're looking at the failures of the people who didn't become big stars on the main roster, they're ignoring the women most of the time, and they're looking at the men who didn't translate into big bucks. Okay, so now in terms of what's happening with NXT, so the rumor is PWI Insider says they're going to overhaul NXT. So they want to do a new logo, new format, new branding on NXT. And this is supposedly this is because NXT lost the war with AEW. Now, I don't know if that's true, but this is like the rumors. Okay, so this is Observer Radio. There's talk of changing NXT or changing things completely. And then PWI Insider says they want an updated logo, new lighting, and a focus on younger talents for NXT. This includes a different format to the weekly NXT TV product. And the releases from last week are supposedly part of the brand changes coming to NXT. Now, in light of TV ratings and things, do you think this could be a good thing for NXT?
I'm the type of person who says, don't fix what's not broken.
Okay.
And don't touch it. It's doing good right now. It has been definitely it's been a better show than Raw has been over the last couple weeks. I don't
Okay.
know what they're doing. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's not my money and it's not my company. So
You want to know something interesting? NXT ratings were up this week.
Mhm.
Because the past 2 weeks the show was on Sci-Fi Channel due to the Olympics. They were back on USA Network this week. And then let's see, they did 751,000 viewers. So viewership was up 90%.
Right.
Ratings were up 44%. And now those numbers may not look high, but as far as the USA Network in that time slot, like NXT is doing better than anything else USA Network would air at that
Right.
time. So the ratings aren't doing too badly as far as NXT goes. Now let's see. So here's some more rumors that came from Wrestling Observer Radio. Okay, so here is wording about the changes coming to NXT that Dave Meltzer reported on his radio show. No more midgets. No one's starting in their 30s. They want people who can be box office attractions and main characters. So that's what they are looking for. Younger, bigger. You have to be lower. You have to be younger than your 30s if you want to get a WWE developmental contract now. Do you think this is true?
It wouldn't shock me, and I wouldn't be surprised because especially what I've been hearing over the last couple of weeks, listening to Busted Open Radio,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of agree to what the guys were saying on their radio show.
Okay.
Is the fact that they don't want WWE doesn't want to develop or even get to the point where they have a star like The Rock, Stone Cold, where they're bigger than the company. That they don't want anybody bigger than the company. And I think if they do this and they bring them in from NXT, no names who are younger, they could always control that progress up.
Here's the thing about The Rock. The Rock was a completely like homegrown star in WWE.
Yeah.
Steve Austin already had a long career and was in WCW for quite a while before he signed with WWE.
Yeah.
He signed with WWE. He was in his early 30s. He became Stone Cold Steve Austin and became one of their biggest box office draws of all time. But he was an established veteran and he was a top star in WCW before he got fired.
Yeah. And we just had a comment come in about Roman Reigns might become that because Reigns is really good. And I think that's where, and if let's just hypothetically say it, if he does get to that level in this style of WWE and the way they want to go, he'll be gone.
I think Roman Reigns is one of the few guys who is safe from getting cut right now.
Yeah.
At this point. Just because of his place on the card, and we know WWE loves him. Mm-hmm. I think it helps that he's finally turned heel and he looks like he's comfortable in his skin and his shoes now, in his boots. And he's playing the character he should have been playing 5 years ago. I think that's definitely helped him a lot, but he is not Rock level. He is not, or John Cena level.
He's not there yet. But the one thing I could definitely say, I wouldn't be shocked if there's more cuts to come. That this is still not the end.
The rumor from, I think, who was it? Matt Men from the Matt Men podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Andrew Zarian said more cuts. He said more cuts are coming. He reported that more cuts are coming, and he's been a pretty reliable source of news for WWE, for backstage news. And then, what do you think about this sort of? They want to overhaul NXT and developmental, bring it back to its developmental roots. So I guess less smaller, fast indie guys, and younger, bigger guys who can become WrestleMania main eventers someday.
I think it's a bad idea and it goes old school. It's an old mentality that the bigger guys are going to be the ones that are going to bring the draw.
Mm-hmm.
When it's showing around the world in different organizations around the world, that the more athletic, more fit guys who are more health, they're more physically and I don't know how you could describe it. They're more they more have that Finn Balor type of look,
Yeah.
or more athletic, more acrobatic, who do high flying stunts. Those are the guys that seem to be winning the day when it comes to different organizations around the
Okay.
world. These big muscle bodybuilder guys are
That era
just
is, I mean, that era is
that
over,
happened.
Mike.
Yeah, that happened in the 80s,
I
in the
mean, we're not
90s.
the Hulkamania era is gone, and you can't, like, some guys are big and muscular, but like you can't always manufacture
Mhm,
and find guys like that these days.
mhm.
And then look at the 90s and look at Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Those, they weren't big men.
Yeah,
You know, they
and see
were, you know, I doubt they were even 230, 240 pounds
yeah.
on their best days.
Yeah, and going into the comments because this kind of relates to it. Big guys, look at Goldberg. He has three moves and can sell tickets. Finn Balor does not sell tickets, which is exactly
That's a misnomer.
that's a misnomer because Finn Balor he's been able to sell out buildings in Japan and every place else around the world. It's just here in the United States where WWE.
He sold out arena buildings for NXT when he
Yeah,
was headlining NXT and they were doing takeovers in big arenas.
yeah, because that's why WWE is not the only game in town anymore. And I think people need to start realizing that there's a lot more out there, that WWE is not the only game. They're not the only show anymore. There's
AEW is selling out arena. They're
Mhm.
selling out arenas
I
right
mean,
now.
you're seeing wrestling organizations from Europe, Japan, and in Mexico come
Mexico.
into the United States and trying to make a footprint in this country. If New Japan, I'm telling you, like if New Japan were to ever make a footprint into the United States with AEW, WWE has a lot to worry about that. If in their own personal New Japan type of organization.
Here, this comment from Bunda. By the way, people like to romance Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, but they were losing money during that era. I mean, Bunda, without Shawn Michaels, there's no Steve Austin.
Mhm.
Without Bret Hart, there's no Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Without Bret Hart, you don't have that. You don't have the double turn at WrestleMania 13 and making Austin the superstar he eventually became. Without Shawn Michaels, you don't have WrestleMania 14, and you don't have Stone Cold's ascension to World Heavyweight Champion.
Mhm.
You don't have DX. You don't have the Attitude. The start of the Attitude Era was 1997. And you had it with the Hart Foundation, you had it with Shawn Michaels, you had it with the Montreal Screwjob, and that was when like Mr. McMahon was born, and it all started with those guys. And after guys like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior were gone, it was guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels who, I'm sorry, they kept the WWE alive. So Bunda, once again, you're being naive, you're being ignorant, you're being obtuse, Bunda.
Here we go again with a nice fight discussion with Bunda. But no, but to be honest, it is true fact. Even Shawn Michaels says like he wasn't one of the big guys and he thought he would never get a shot, but they saw something in him and he was able to get in. I mean, the biography documentary says a lot about a lot of these guys who are not the bodybuilder types, who were big, but they weren't like the Hulk Hogan steroid type of big.
What about all the years when Shawn Michaels came back at in from 2002 to 2010?
Mhm.
Had a whole big run. Are
Yeah.
you going to tell me
And,
he couldn't draw then?
yeah.
Him and
And
the
that's the thing.
Undertaker.
And that's the thing. Like we're looking at a sport slash entertainment that is looking for another different type of wrestler now. Faster, quicker, more athletic. By being more athletic and not as big, less injury prone.
Right.
So who are more of a CrossFit, more I mean, Seth Rollins. Look at Seth Rollins. He's not a big guy. Even Roman Reigns is not really a big guy in comparison to other guys.
Compared
These guys
to
are
like
quicker,
Ultimate
faster.
Warrior or
Mhm.
Hulk Hogan or the gold,
Yeah.
the Golden Age, no, he's not.
Yeah. Bobby Lashley is the last of his kind. Let's be honest.
Bobby Lashley's like he's like a genetic
He's
freak of
yeah,
nature.
exactly. He's the last of his kind. The future is going to be faster, more athletic. I mean,
And,
it's the way it's going to
and
be.
as much as I like Bobby Lashley, and I'm glad he finally became champion, Lashley is not the star of a level of The Rock or some of the bigger draws of the past 20 years. He just isn't. I'm sorry.
And here's the thing. It all comes down to the way they write the story. It comes down to who's writing the story, who's producing the product, and who's producing the show. We've seen it time and time again where they did some amazing work and they pushed the guy that you think would never get to that level and get to that level.
Okay.
I still say a lot of the problems with WWE right now are in the front office and in back of house.
I think it's more. I think this problem. I can believe it's not really Nick Khan, and it's more talent development influencing these things for the developmental changes to NXT. And I as far as the indie guys and all those guys they were hiring, if they didn't ever plan on doing things with them and bringing them to the main roster, then you never should have hired them in the first place.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I think WWE signing all those cruiserweights and doing 205 Live, I think that was ill-advised. I think doing the Cruiserweight Classic as sort of like a limited time thing, sort of a limited, like, okay, let's bring in a bunch of junior guys from all over the world, have a Cruiserweight tournament as like an annual thing. I think that would have been fine. I don't think WWE does not have the product to really do good Cruiserweight wrestling and junior heavyweight wrestling. And when you look at it now, 205 Live shouldn't even be on right now. It just shouldn't.
I agree with you on that.
I mean, what do they get? What do they even get at 205 Live? Because it's not. I mean, it's only on WWE Network and Peacock. It's not even on. They don't have a TV deal in place. A network or terrestrial TV deal in place for 205 Live. So I don't think it makes any sense. Bunda, The Undertaker, Jeffrey, a big guy with a cool gimmick. And in those manias, you still had Cena, etc. What is your point, Bunda? Reigns is a big guy. Seth Rollins is big-ish, but his only weakness is that high. So mature, Bunda.
Hey, we got everybody coming in. It's good. It's good conversation, but let's move on to the next topic.
Supposedly, tensions were running high at NXT this week in light of all the recent releases. But I can believe it's more Pritchard and John Laurinaitis causing this than Nick Khan.
Yeah,
that makes more sense to me.
Okay.
But that's still like talent development head office, Okay, so let's see. Bobby Eaton, the great Bobby Eaton, sadly passed away.
Yep, that is the news.
One of the most decorated tag team champions of all time. Let's see. Former. The Midnight Express, WCW Tag Team Champion, WCW TV Champion, team with Stan Lane, team with Arn Anderson.
Managed by Jim Cornette.
Yep.
Back in the day for the Midnight Express.
Yep. One of the most decorated tag team wrestlers of all time. In the early 90s, had the Blue Bloods with William Regal. Fun little tag team. Passed away at 62 years old. Has he been inducted into the WWE Hall? Not yet in the Hall of Fame for WWE. No. He's in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame and the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. He definitely deserves. He and Stan Lane as the Midnight Express, they should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but Bobby Eaton defined tag team wrestling, and tag team. Midnight Express was a main event level tag team, and showed that a tag team act can be a main event level team.
Yeah.
for sure.
And let's be honest, outside of WWE at that time, they were probably the biggest tag team in wrestling.
Yeah.
Them and the Rock and Roll Express.
And he never had a really big singles run, but he had some. He was kind of a decent mid-card singles guy. He was TV champion, and he did wrestle Ric Flair in a 2 out of 3 falls match in the early 90s for the World Heavyweight title. So he got a feud with Ric Flair going. So he kind of, but he was never a high-level singles guy. But he was mainly a tag team guy. But he did, he had a lot of success in the business, and he deserves recognition for that for sure.
Right, I agree. And a great guy.
Okay, so let's see what is going on with AEW Dynamite. So we had Dynamite last night.
And what a great start to this show last night. That's all I could say.
To which show?
To AEW Dynamite.
Oh, with
Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus
okay.
Dante Martin. And
I thought you were talking about the MJF promo.
The Dante Martin just blew me away for that opening match at AEW Dynamite yesterday.
That was interesting because they gave the Seidels have been around there for a minute, but they gave those guys a lot. They gave those guys a lot of opportunity to showcase themselves.
Yep. I mean, that guy friggin' jumped so high, was able to give a drop kick so friggin' high. And literally, if he wanted to, he could have landed in his feet instead, stood right back up.
Do you think this is a start of something for those guys or what?
I see a bright future for Dante Martin.
So now we're kind of setting up Rampage and All Out. So let's see. So we're doing stuff that what is happening with All Out? They're doing Christian Cage. Come on now.
Yeah, that's so let's get into this all because it leads into All Out. With Rampage starting tomorrow, it's going to be the premiere episode of Rampage. Right. They have Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega for the Impact World Heavyweight Championship. And
at Rampage, at All Out, it's the AEW.
Yeah, All Out is the main belt. AEW World.
I don't like this match. I don't like this matchup, Mike.
You don't like it?
I think for Rampage, it's fine. For the pay-per-view, no. I don't like it.
First of all, we got a super chat, so thank you so much to everybody on the podcast. Super chats when people donate in for comments. Thank you so much for the super chat. MJF, another overrated midget.
MJF is one of the top workers in
it's like
AEW.
I hate him so much with his character that I can't fault him because he's getting that emotion out of me.
I mean, like Daniel Bryan is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and Daniel Bryan is under 6 foot. So what are we doing here with this midget crap? Like come on, like grow up, grow up.
Like I understand Bunda's look at things because there's still a lot of people who remember the old days and the bigger guys.
Yeah,
and
I like big guys too. I like big guys and big horses too. But
what was that again?
Big horses.
You like big guys?
I like big man wrestlers. I enjoy big power, like big power hoss matches, like two big lumbering dudes just beating the hell out of each other. I like that, but it's also about big personalities.
And we'll save that episode of the show for our Muse After Dark.
It's about larger than life personalities, and MJF has that.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan is a fluke. I mean.
That one I'm a little bit like I don't
like
know. It could have been. It really could have been.
He probably agrees with Triple H. CM Punk's ass is too fat.
Well, like Daniel Bryan is one of those ones that I'm just like
his ass looks too fat.
Like in Ring of Honor, he was the one guy who never stood out for me was Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, I think
when it came to WWE, it just kind of like I think they just market him well.
I think when he turned heel and won the title, and kind of had that really long title run, I think he stood out well in Ring of Honor. But
yeah,
whatever. Okay, so I I like Christian. I just don't think he should be headlining a pay-per-view for the world title right now.
yeah.
I think do that match on TV, do it on Rampage. Don't do it on your pay-per-view main event. It feels very TNA to me.
And All Out is like their equivalent of WrestleMania, correct? Is that what we're kind of labeling All Out as?
It kind of is because it started. All In was kind of the prototype for AEW, I guess. And I guess All Out is sort of like their, even though they started with Double or Nothing on pay-per-view, I guess All Out is kind of like their, premier event.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Also set for All Out, Pac versus Andrade. So they're continuing that feud with Death Triangle. Pac is going to lose here, but yeah, so that's a good matchup at least.
Yeah, that's going to be the setup of the. Something tells me, and you can already see it as a sign, is that they're going to set up something where the Lucha Brothers are going to turn against Pac, and it's going to be the Latino, like in reggaeton, they have the Latino gang. This is going to be the Latino gang of wrestling.
Okay, I thought I thought Chris Statlander and Nyla Rose had a good match last night on Dynamite, and Statlander picked up a good upset. Yeah, good 450 splash finish. I like that match.
Yeah, it was a good match. I actually had fun with that one.
Impact Tag Team titles: the Good Brothers crossing over to face the Dark Order. Good Brothers retained after some shenanigans. A decent little TV match there. Did its job.
It pushed the matches through.
So speaking of crossover, so now we're doing a bit of an NWA crossover. I like that they're getting Camille on Dynamite, and she's feuding, I guess, with Layla Hirsch from AEW. So I guess they're going to wrestle on Empower, the NWA pay-per-view. Women pay-per-view. It's called Empower, and that's I believe August 28th. In Missouri. So let's see the lineup there. So yeah, Camilla, or is it Camille? I'm sorry. Camilla is going to defend her women's title against Layla Hirsch from AEW this month at NWA Empower. Yeah. Okay, so let's say. Now, of course, they were in Pittsburgh, so that hometown of Dr. Britt Baker. She had a nice little homecoming. Do you think, is Britt Baker the baby face now? Did she kind of low key turn?
I think she's the baby face just because they're in Pittsburgh in her hometown.
Okay. Because I mean, Red Velvet did come out and attack her, and that was kind of a bit heelish, even though I guess Britt Baker is still technically the heel. Okay. In the main event, we had Chris Jericho versus Wardlow. So Chris Jericho, he beat Juventud Guerrera last week to advance in the labors of MJF. So he beat Wardlow. He was able to beat Wardlow this week, so he gets his rematch against MJF. Jericho can't use Judas or the Judas effect.
And cannot come out to his theme song.
He can't come out to the Judas theme. That'd be funny if people just sing along anyway without the music.
Oh, you know that's what's gonna happen. I already foresee it, where he's gonna walk out and the audience is gonna be singing him his entrance music all the way down to the ring.
I don't see what the big deal is. Jericho not using the Judas is not a big deal because he can still use the walls of Jericho and his billion other finishing moves he has.
Well, isn't it just a back forearm, a back elbow?
It's a reverse elbow. Yeah. I mean, big whoop.
It's like,
did you see the match with Juventud? I thought that was fun, even though both guys
was fun.
They're both older. They're both really old as hell, but it was fun for what it was.
Yeah, and this is what's funny though is that Chris Jericho has had some amazing runs.
Yeah.
And I think this run that he's been with AEW is another one of those great runs in his career since WCW all the way up to now. It's like, he's one of those guys that is really up there now. He's one.
Do you think this run is Jericho planning his in-ring retirement? You think he's going to go out here?
It could be. I don't know how much more he has.
Okay, so here's what else we have. So this is tomorrow night. Is the TNT debut of AEW Rampage. Will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania again at the Peterson Events Center. They will be live on TNT tomorrow at 10 p.m. So once SmackDown is over, you turn to TNT and you watch Rampage. So we have, as we mentioned earlier, Omega versus Christian Cage for the Impact World title.
Yep.
For the TNT title, Miro versus Fuego del Sol, the master of the Tornado DDT.
Yeah, that one is already called. That one's done.
Well, if Fuego wins, he gets a contract and the title. I like that.
Yeah, but he's not gonna get a contract, nor is he gonna get a title.
Why don't you like Fuego? He's the master of the Tornado DDT.
Dude, Miro is just on another level again.
Yeah, but Fuego. He's Fuego del Sol.
Shoot, Miro is at the spot where when he came in, like a guy who couldn't even stop. Nobody could stop him.
You know what Fuego means, Michael?
Yes, I do know where Fuego means.
Fuego means
I am Latino.
Fuego means fire. This young man is fire, and he has mastered the Tornado DDT.
But when
it's not AJ Styles, it's Fuego del Sol.
But when you look at Miro, Miro could break him in half.
Okay.
In any like non-wrestling fight, because wrestling. Well, you know how wrestling is. If it was a real fight, Miro would kill him.
Okay, so here we go. Britt Baker defends the women's title against Red Velvet. I think Britt Baker has to win here. I think we're gonna have to get Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker will be the big one for that title at some point.
That has to happen before the end of this year. Because like I tell you, this is Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker's match is still my favorite match of the year, and that happened in what, March?
The lights out match. Yeah.
Yes. I want to see that again. I want to see them fight again.
For the title this time. Yeah.
And you know what? I would like to see it go into 3 matches. Britt Baker wins.
You could have like a best of 7 between those two.
You could. But if we're going by 3, Britt Baker wins 2 of the matches, and the final match, Thunder Rosa wins.
I think though Britt Baker's sort of, I guess, emergence as sort of a top star has just been incredible to watch this year, and seeing her flourish into becoming a champion. Okay, now I have some ratings news. Dynamite last night, they had 4 straight weeks of over 1 million viewers, 4 weeks of ratings growth. This was the first sort of drop since they moved back to their regular, I think, TNT time slot. So let's see here. 979,000 viewers and a 0.35 rating. Last week they did 1.102 million viewers and a 0.46 rating. So last week the ratings kind of peaked, and they still did over 1.1 million viewers. This week they fell just below 1 million viewers. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how they do it at a late night time slot on a Friday night with Rampage, but it'll still be live.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I'm kind of curious about. Is there going to be more blood, more violence? No Domino's issues?
Oh yeah, because they did have that whole Domino's controversy with Nick Gage.
And we got a comment from Football Scouting Report. Let's bring this up. Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho 5-star match and a new AEW champion, my Ruru.
Ruby Soho. That's Ruby Riott, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Has there been talk of Ruby Riott going to AEW?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything, but I think that would be something worth bringing over, because I think she's
very good.
She is good. I mean,
thanks for your finally an intelligent comment. Thank you, Football Scouting Report. I appreciate you sharing that with us. But yeah, I would love to see Ruby Riott, and that would be a great matchup, I think. Just because Ruby Riott, she was great, and I think she never really got the respect she deserved in WWE. I would love to see her come over.
Yeah. And I just got a comment again. The love between Jeffrey and Bunda is one like no other.
Well, thank
Like
you.
no other love that I've seen.
Okay, so also, so next week, a week from Friday, we'll have AEW Rampage: The First Dance, which will be held at the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, Friday, August 20th. And of course, everyone is assuming this will be the AEW debut of CM Punk. CM Punk has said on a radio interview he thinks he'll be in Chicago for a screening or something on Friday, August 20th. So,
well, there's a YouTube. I don't know if this
yeah.
was the interview that you saw,
Yeah.
but I saw something on YouTube, which we are on
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
that he was doing an interview talking about heels, and they brought up him being at AEW Dynamite and what's that is he a part of AEW? He was making it off like his wrestling career is done. And that
Wink,
everybody's
wink.
been talking, yeah, that
Done.
everybody's
Wink,
talking
wink.
about blah blah. And he goes, probably the worst. And him, he's like, I'm focusing on acting. Acting is my focus. This is what I want to do. And I think I may have, and he goes, ironically, what I did before and what I'm doing now kind of intersected with heels. And I think that may have brought up the idea of me coming back to wrestling because of that being on heels, which makes me like, something tells me it's gonna lead that he actually is gonna show up.
Now, honestly, a part of me wishes CM Punk wasn't coming back, or he won't. You want to know why? I think he had a great career, and I know fans want to see it, but like, it's better if he didn't come back because of the wear and tear on his body. Because he's 42 years old, and I'm sure he's in good shape, but as you get older, the wear and tear sets in even more. Plus, he's been away from the ring for almost 10 years. Other than the training and the MMA training and all the other stuff he's been doing. But I kind of like that CM Punk quit and didn't come back and kind of left the business behind. And I think he's doing well for himself. It looks like he's done different projects. He's done TV. He's doing movies now. And I don't feel like he needs wrestling. I'm not.
And
I don't know.
and that's the thing. Like,
It's not because I love CM Punk. I just kind of I think he's better. He might be better off without wrestling now.
and my thing is, this is the one thing to be and to see CM Punk come back, which would be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that why? What does he have to prove? What does he have to do?
I guess. I mean, if he does come back, there are good matchups he can have, and maybe he wants to help build AEW into being a viable competitor. But I don't really know.
Because on that same YouTube video that I saw, he did admit that they came to him in the beginning of AEW when it was
That's
starting.
right. I want to read that for you.
And Khan did talk with him and met with him about coming to AEW.
So this was on Sunday nights. It was on Sunday night's main event. He did have before AEW became real and launched in 2019. He said he did have talks with Tony Khan. Here's what he said. I talked to Tony Khan at that time. My perspective on this, and I said this to his face, I'm a guy who has constantly heard, I have a money guy, I have TV. I heard that once or twice for 15, 20 years. I've gotten bounce checks from those gentlemen. You watched it happen, especially after ECW folded. Everybody was restarting ECW. It always seems like somebody is like, we're going to start up and compete with Vince. I always thought that came from a bad spot. If you want to start a wrestling company, you should focus on yourself. I more or less took a wait and see approach. I'm not interested in pro wrestling in that respect. We're here. We're talking about heels. It could be bad luck that this role I got is set in the world of pro wrestling, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm focused on being an actor. So that's from the mouth of CM Punk.
Yeah.
I can't wait for CM Punk to come back so all the smarks can see how ordinary. I'm going to tell you, Bunda, this ordinary dude got better ratings than your boy Goldberg and Roman Reigns. So there you go.
It's guy love between you two.
A thin line between love and hate, Mike. All right. So I think that kind of wraps it up. But we have Rampage tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We have SmackDown tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have SummerSlam coming up next weekend. NXT Takeover 36, which will be Samoa Joe versus Karrion Kross. And possibly more firings from WWE.
You never know.
More backstage drama.
And for next week's show, at least we get to talk SummerSlam. Next week we'll talk SummerSlam because it is happening.
Randy Orton is 41 years old. I'm not saying fire Randy Orton, but come on, Mike. If they're firing Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, how is Randy Orton safe at this point?
He's a long time guy who's just
he's in his 40s.
Yeah.
He's probably getting paid too much.
Yep. We go. That ordinary dude wakes up to AJ Lee every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eat that, Bunda 713.
I'm sorry. That's the one thing where I have to go. Yeah. I wouldn't mind waking up to that every morning.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to add before we take things away here?
Actually, no, nothing. It was great. I'm looking forward to Rampage. I think it's going to be an interesting show. And I'm kind of curious to see how, it's only an hour. So I'm curious how it's going to be. And then we'll talk about SummerSlam next week and see what that's going to look like.
But I like with Rampage for tomorrow. They're starting off live tomorrow in Pittsburgh, and then they're going to live in Chicago. So they're going to have. So for the new show, they're building things up, and they're starting, and everyone's going to be expecting who in Chicago. Yeah. So I like how they're handling that. I think that's a good way to do it.
Since we got a super chat before we end, and we have to bring that up. AJ, just another cute short girl, dime a dozen.
Hey, Bunda, thanks for supporting the channel and the show. Thanks for the super chat.
I appreciate it, but still.
Okay. Yeah.
Still.
Man.
I can't say anything.
I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm an AJ Lee fan. I like AJ Lee. So
same here.
That's what I'm gonna say.
And with that, well, because I gotta support my Latinos in this industry. Yeah. There's not much of us, so we gotta support them. So
yeah, exactly.
AJ Menendez, definitely. Hey, if you're listening, if you ever decide to drop by, you're always welcome to come.
We'd love to chat with you. Yeah,
exactly. But overall, Jeffrey, where could they find you? Okay. What do you have going on this week?
Okay, so 411 Mania, check out my review of Marvel's What If, which just debuted this week. I reviewed the first 3 episodes. I think we have another Marvel movie coming up. Mm-hmm. We're going to see that. My review of Jungle Cruise, and I have a wrestling interview coming up this week on the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. So check that out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. It's the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast, and it will also be on 411mania.com. So be on the lookout real soon, and it'll be up in the next few days. Big interview.
Awesome. And I know we were supposed to announce our big announcement 2 weeks ago, but unfortunately on the 31st is when all this stuff with my tooth happened, and it wasn't a good time to announce it while you're going through pain. So we're going to be announcing that probably within the next week, or probably in the next week and a half. But there's one thing we are working on, and stay tuned for this. We're putting together a fantasy football league with MUSE Sports. So, and we're working on doing a live stream fantasy football show every week. And we'll let you know more details as that come up, because I'm trying to see how many people we could bring into this league and what we could do to make it really fun for everybody. So stay tuned for that. And we have some great interviews that just came in this week. We had Jennifer Hudson. We have Marlon Wayans. Check out those interviews. We had a great interview with Cesar Millan 2 weeks ago. So check out everything with MUSE TV. And we'll be making a big announcement within the next couple days to middle of next week. And also, too, before I forget, I got invited to go to the Reminiscence world premiere. So I will be there next week at the Chinese Theater. Yeah, with Hugh Jackman.
You'll be hanging out with Hugh Jackman.
Exactly, Wolverine himself. So yeah. I'll be bringing some stuff together, and Bunda, I'll let you know as soon as the fantasy football league and once we set everything together. And it'll be free because I don't believe in paid and all this other stuff unless we're going to give away the money, but that's a lot of work. I just want to have fun with this one. But and we'll figure something out in the future. But for the first one, we're going to do it for fun. But yeah, so thank you so much. Don't forget to watch MuseTV.net for anything that we have coming up. And don't forget, next week we'll be back on This Week in Pro Wrestling. And we'll see you next time here. I'm Mike Sandoval, Jeffrey Harris. See you next week.